Hello, everybody. This is Dave Wallace coming to you from my home in Waihawa. I'd like to introduce to you my newest arrival in our home, and we're very happy to see it in our home again. And this is my first printing of my book, The Journey of Our Souls. And right now, the hardcover books are available on my website. Just take a look at the title of my book, The Journey of Our Souls. The website is www.thejourneyofursouls.com. If you purchase the books on this website, you will be getting an autographed copy of the book. You order it anywhere else, you won't get an autographed copy. Okay? And right now, the e-copy is also available through Kindle. So if you have an account at Amazon, you can download it there. Now, I wanted to spend time to explain the book itself to you, okay? And what is the book about? Why did I write it? And what do I hope to accomplish by sharing my story with you? So first of all, the book is written, the main theme that this book is written around is my four near-death experiences that occurred throughout my life. The first one occurred when I was 5 years old, and the most recent one occurred when I was 57 years old. That was 10 years ago. The first and most recent near-death experiences were very identical. I was taken to the same place, met with the same people, I was placed in the same room as both times. Okay, so these near-death experiences, number 1 and number 4, were very identical. The other two in between, the second near-death experience, which occurred when I was 25 years old, occurred when I was living on Molokai, and that one was different. In this one, I was met by a friend of mine who had passed away, and he was a teacher at Molokai High School, and he came to me when I was sick. I had double pneumonia, and this story is shared in the book. Anyway, in this particular near-death experience, I was shown what lays beyond the veil when we die and what awaits us. And I was happy to see my family members there waiting for me at the end of the tunnel. And yes, there was a tunnel that a lot of people describe, and at the end of the tunnel was my loved ones. Now, I was very surprised in this near-death experience to see my pets. Yeah, my fur babies and my feather babies were there waiting for me, and I called them by name. They all responded. So this near-death experience showed me that the connections we make in this life among human beings and our fur babies and our feather babies, they stick with us. These relationships remain with us beyond the grave. So when we die, our loved ones will be there. All of our loved ones will be there to greet us. And that's what I learned from my second near-death experience. My third near-death experience was the most frightening experience I ever had. And this was a nightmare, basically, where I met the personification of death. And it was the only near-death experience where I felt that I was being personally attacked. I was attacked by a pack of dogs. They looked like demon dogs to me. And my reaction when I was trapped and cornered was a reaction that I normally behave in real life. You know, somebody cornered me in real life and threatened me, I come out swinging. So that's what happened in this particular near-death experience. So a lot of what's written here is written about my near-death experience. The most important part of the book, however, is not the near-death experiences themselves, but what happened between the near-death experiences, what came after. For me, I see the near-death experiences, especially near-death experience 2, 3, and 4, as an opportunity to press the pause button in my life, a pause button so that I could reevaluate what was happening in my life. Things were pretty messed up, and I needed to pause so I could take and reassess what I was doing. And these near-death experiences knocked me on my butt, and I was either in a hospital or at home, and incapacitated some way, where I had to really think and reconsider what my life was shaping to be. And so it gave me an opportunity to rethink and evaluate. So after the near-death experiences came periods of growth and expansion that never happened, wouldn't have happened unless I took the time to really reevaluate. And it's the periods between these near-death experiences where the majority of my growth and learning new skills, either through dreams that I get and impressions that I get from my ancestors, or meeting specific people that have skills that I want to learn from. So an example is I had a childhood ability to see hidden things where I could see my presents during Christmas time, and I could see the presents without opening it before I open it. And I used to rearrange my presents by, one stack for school things, another stack for clothes, and another stack for my toys. And the best toy I saved for last. So that used to drive my parents crazy. Anyway, so I had that ability as a kid, but I didn't know how to control it. And so it took me several years as an adult to finally be able to control it through learning how to be a remote viewer. And becoming a remote viewer, I learned certain protocols, certain procedures that I could take advantage of my natural ability and put it within a discipline, a very disciplined approach, so that I could use my natural ability at will. See, the thing about it is that a lot of us that are born with certain gifts, natural gifts, we don't know how to control it. So by learning how to become a remote viewer, I was able to use my ability, my natural ability to see hidden things on demand. So I had the discipline to do that. So these are some of the things that occurred in the time periods between the different near-death experiences that I had. It was a period of growth and learning where I was schooled and trained to do certain things and to expand my natural abilities. So I also share personal stories that occurred with my family members, some of the stories that occurred to my mom, grandparents, and other ohana in here, as well as other friends. I also include many stories that I experienced during this time period, and each of these stories are associated with me developing a specific skill. So the stories that I've been sharing with you folks on YouTube are stories that didn't make it into this book. So that's where it's coming from. Now, to give you an idea about the contents of my book, there are 16 chapters, and I'll read the different chapter headings. The first chapter is surviving my first near-death experience. The second chapter is seeing spirits and hidden objects. Chapter 3, clashing of cultures. Now, a lot of people who have natural gifts you run into clashing cultures, and the cultures that I'm talking about can be Hawaiian versus European or American culture, or Hawaiian religion and religious practices and Christianity. So growing up on the island of Molokai, there was a lot of cultural clashes that was going through, that I was experiencing, and many other kids that were growing up during this time was experiencing. So especially as a gifted child, uh, you face a lot of pressures because you're the weirdo that stands out. Okay? And so you find ways to disappear and blend, and eventually nobody notices you. Okay? And that's what I found myself doing. All right. Chapter 4 is dreaming and prophecy. Now, there's one very strong gift that I can say comes from my family, and that's receiving prophetic dreams. And a lot of my dreams that I get, especially serial dreams that occur over 3-4 nights in a row, these dreams are trying to grab my attention because they're telling me of a future event that's about to happen. Chapter 5, near-death experience 2, finding heaven. Chapter 6 is talking with your ancestors, and this is where I explain how I learned to communicate with my aumakua, my family members who's deceased, and my guardian angels. Chapter 7 is my near-death experience number 3, and chapter 8, becoming a healer. Now, after my near-death experience number 3, I was challenged to do 2 different things. One, I needed to learn how to be a healer, and this is where and when I started exploring Reiki, okay, and the idea of the energy universe. And chapter 9 is becoming a remote viewer. Okay. Chapter 10 is my 4th near-death experience. Chapter 11 is becoming a kahu. This is a phase in my life where I decided to embrace who I was as a spiritual person and embrace my mission to help other people learn how to heal and learn how to expand their abilities. So that's my role as a kahu. Chapter 12 and 13 are actually my manuals that I use for Haki'i healing and Haki'i medical intuition. So these are my 2 actually instructions on how to do these specific skills. Chapter 14, predicting your future. This is where I show how I use associative remote viewing to predict the outcomes of games and sporting events, okay? And that's a fun one. So if you are interested in doing that, take a look at my book, chapter 14, and I'll show you the method, how to set things up and what to use. The skill itself, the skill that you need to develop is very different. I'm just showing you how to do it, okay? And how to set yourself up. The skill is something very different that needs to, you need to be taught how to do this, okay? Chapter 16 is being a reluctant leader, and the reason I added that was it was suggested that I add a chapter in leadership by my writing coach. Okay, so this is the contents of the book, and in between here there's a lot of interesting stories. If you've been enjoying the stories I've been sharing with you on YouTube so far, some of those stories again didn't make it in my book, but some of these stories that I have included here will blow you away if you enjoyed my my YouTube series. So that's the contents of the book. Now, why did I write this book? The main reason why I wrote this book is for people like you who are awakening and finding that, a lot of your skills and your natural abilities that you've been trying to hide all these years, well, you get a certain age and pretty soon the skills start coming out so strong that despite what you do, you can't shut it off. And when you start exercising these skills, you begin to alienate others around you. They look at you kind of weird. Your family members begin to kind of like call you names and call you weird and act differently towards you. You begin to get pressured by some of your peers, especially for some of you who belong to a religious organization. And I faced that as a child. I was in my bishop office a lot because a lot of the things that I could see and a lot of things that I could do, so many people thought I was possessed. So I spent a lot of time talking to bishops and talking with my dad, and because we were raised in a certain way, and it was a conflict. So for those of you who are facing these type of conflicts, I went through that. I understand your feelings. I understand exactly what's going on. And what you need is a friend who's been through that and can advise you and navigate this time in your life where you're struggling. No one around you can help you. You feel lost and disoriented and don't know where to turn. So by reading my book and taking a look at some of the things that I struggled with, my own personal struggles in developing who I am now, I hope that the struggles that I illustrate here in this book will help you with your own personal struggles that you're going through. And know that if you need even more help, you can always contact me. I'm on Facebook as Cow Dave or just David J. Wallace, and I'm easy to contact. Call me and we can talk story. All right. And that is my mission as a Kahu, is to help many of you who are emerging and coming out and not too sure how to use or what to do with your personal abilities. I can be your guide and help you in doing this and working this through. Now, a lot of the changes that occur in a person when we make the decision to embrace who we are, these changes can be very frightful and very fearful. Many people are going to be looking at you and trying to dissuade you from pursuing what you know inside of you to be right. And the more you allow these people to distract you, it's going to do more harm to you than good. Okay? It's always easy to listen to other people. It's always easy to judge other people and tell what other people will do, unless you're going through that journey yourself. Okay? Now, the spiritual growth that you're experiencing is a personal one. This is something that you need to deal with. Only you know what is right and what is wrong, what needs to be done. And for many of you, you're going to learn that pursuing the spiritual path can be a lonely one, because your friends going to abandon you, or you're going to meet friends that are very different than the circle of friends that you surrounded yourself all these times. And a lot of times, to make that life change, you're not only changing inside, but you also need to change the environment, the people that you surround yourself with, where you choose to go, what you choose to read, who you choose to converse with. And these are all choices that you need to make. And the more positive choices you make that encourages your personal growth, the better off you'll be. Okay? So that's the reason why I wrote this book. Hopefully, I can give you some examples and that can help you during this time that you're struggling. Okay? Now, where can you get the book? Again, you can get the book by looking at www.thejourneyofursouls.com. And when you purchase a book, a hard copy, you'll get a autographed copy from me, and we'll talk story, and I'll give you folks a personal note in this book. So if you have any questions regarding the journey of our souls and any other aspect of the book in my own personal journey, please feel free to contact me on Facebook under Kahu Dave. Many of you already know me. So thank you so much for dropping in and listening to me today. This is my second take. So aloha, and if you enjoyed what I shared here, please share it with other people and subscribe to my channel. Okay? Aloha.